Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, some of you might be like,
Continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive. She's
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth.
And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do.
So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. I did this intro earlier before I sat down with my guest, and then I had the conversation. And I was like, nope, that intro did not do this conversation justice. I need to sit back down and hit record, and hopefully you can feel my energy and excitement come through, because what I realized having some time to reflect on the conversation I had with my guest, Dr. Alvin Thomas, was that it felt like such a beautiful full circle moment to my healing journey that I could sit beside someone like him with the knowledge that he has, with the expertise that he has, and hold a conversation with this man, but then to feel so validated in the journey that I've taken and the work that I'm doing on myself and with my kids and with this podcast. And I've said on here a million times, like, we don't need outside validation, but damn, did it feel good today in a really healing way, because I have been told, who are you to? Because I certainly don't have the degrees and the diplomas and the experience that this man has, but I'm trusting my gifts and that I'm supposed to express them in a completely different way than he is. And it was such a beautiful conversation, and I cannot wait for you to get to the episode. But first, I have to read this dissertation that is his bio. And I actually had to figure out a way to condense it somehow because I want you to get to the episode. So here is me trying to do Dr. Alvin Thomas justice on his intro. And so I'm going to have to read this. So bear with me. Dr. Alvin Thomas is a clinical psychologist, researcher, and associate professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison who is doing incredible work around Black family development, fatherhood, and emotional well-being. He brings both heart and science to the conversation, which you will absolutely hear throughout this episode. He studies the real-life impact of race, family systems, and father engagement. And he's helping shift how we understand and support Black fathers, children, and communities. He's also the host of the Black Fatherhood podcast and the Black Fathers Pulse podcast, where he shares stories and research that both educate and uplift. And through his company, Thriving Lives, LLC, he's creating safe spaces for families to not just get by, but to truly, truly thrive. Oh my gosh, this conversation is so full of wisdom, warmth, truth, all the things. And I know you're going to walk away feeling inspired by the work that he's doing, and maybe even get more curious about your healing journey and the gifts that can come from following that thread back to your story. So without further ado, welcome my guest. Oh, it was such a gift, Dr. Alvin Thomas. Welcome, everyone. I have Dr. Alvin Thomas with me here today, and I did a pre-intro because I was like, I am going to mess this up royally. And I told him after I got his bio, I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and take Jim Bro off there because I feel like that does not do him justice. Although I did meet you at the gym, and that is where I've gotten to know a little bit more about you. And I'll never forget the first time, maybe not the first time that we spoke, but you had asked me about the podcast. And then Corby told you that I had a podcast. Right. And I think that's when you were maybe going through your transition with yours, because he is an award-winning podcast host over here. So I'm like, okay. But you were asking me something about my studio, and I was like, yeah, so it's my living room. Like, he's never going to talk to me again.
And I knew exactly what you're talking about, because and mine used to be my living room.
Yeah.
My couch in my living room. And now it's just moved to one of the empty bedrooms in my apartment.
Yeah. So we got here, we were just kind of
reminiscing and talking about the podcast woes and wins, but
Yeah.
at that moment, the particular woes of not hitting record and not having audio and the actual work that goes behind the scenes with putting on a podcast.
A ton of work.
Yeah. We both started out with producers. We're like living the good life. And after episode 8, I'm like, well, single mom can't be affording that. So we're going to figure this out. And yeah.
Same thing. It was living the good life. And once the money ran out, it was like, I can't ask somebody to do this work for free. And then discovering all of the work, the actual work that goes into it. Like, I definitely could not ask a person to do this.
Right. Not for
Yes,
free.
not for
Although we do
free.
it
And-
that's what we've been doing for over a year.
As if we're not persons.
Wow. Did we just uncover some of our own trauma? Uh-oh. Off to a great start.
We stepped in it.
Yeah, we sure did. We sure did. Wow. Yeah, that is kind of this interesting combo because one, we're following our dreams and the passion and
How are we treating ourselves as we're following the dream?
Yeah.
Has the dream become more important than the person?
Yeah. Ooh. Oh.
Who's more important, dream or dreamer?
Yeah. That's so interesting you say that because it was maybe a month or so ago. I've been so consistent this entire time of every Tuesday morning an episode goes out. And I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I knew if I try to get this podcast out by Tuesday morning, I'm going to be up until 1 a.m. and I have to coach the next morning. And I'm also a parent. And I'm like, you know what? But my ego was like, well, you're going to ruin your streak and people are going to expect it on Tuesday morning. And I was like, yo, girl, your mental health, your physical health are riding on this decision right now. And yeah, and I think I had to say that, the podcast can wait. I got to take care of myself because got to practice what you preach.
Yep.
Here I am exhausting myself and no one knows. Like, got to get that episode out.
Yeah, I was just in the Caribbean end of July. I had friends come over. I had my nephew and his parents come over towards like 16th, 17th of July. He is coming over for his birthday and we were going to celebrate. And I thought to myself, you can't be putting out podcast episodes while they're here. You can't be doing work while they're here. And then I had a friend come back with me, one of my former high school students in the Caribbean, come back with me in September, and he's going to be there for the entire month. And I thought, you can't be recording episodes while he's here either. Not to mention the room that he's going to be using is going to be the studio.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to need you to...
Like, could you move out so I can start recording? I'm like, you can't do that. And for me, it was, one, on a personal level, I just needed the space. My head was full of content, but also full of school and work and responsibilities, familial and otherwise, and stress and tiredness from being at a gym at 4:30 and 5 in the morning.
Yeah, he's one of the morning crew.
So all of that was just weighing on me and just a lot to carry. I said, Alvin, what would happen if you did not put out and I had the episodes recorded. So I was like, I'm going to record like 8 episodes before July comes around so that I know I have the content. It's like, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
People might stop following you because they haven't
stay
seen
relevant.
content. Right. And I'm like, but what's the use of being relevant if you're dead?
Oh.
I was like, you know what?
Do you want to drop this? Just mic drop that?
I would not drop your mic.
Yeah, please don't.
We'll drop a mic.
We're on a tight budget here. I'm zero budget. Don't break my mic.
So I said, Alvin, you really do just need to take this time for yourself.
Yeah.
You need to connect to people whom you love, people who love you, people who are going to pour into you. And I just took July, August, September off and came back and put out a couple
roaring. Like your episodes have been amazing.
I'm editing another episode now and I have like 4 other episodes that are already in the barrel and getting ready to go out because they're recorded and everything else, and starting to line up some other ones to record. Some new interviews, hopefully sometime in November. But the idea is that sometimes you do need to just take time off, even from life.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because if you don't, who else is going to take the time off for you?
Right.
And if you choose not to do it, your body's going to do it for you.
Oh my gosh, I've learned that lesson the hard way so many times. So many times where I'll get an injury or something where I realize like, oh, you can't pour all of your emotions and things into the gym and you actually have to have other coping strategies. And I was like, what? No.
But this one is working.
Yeah, until it doesn't.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's typically what happens to people is we go, and finally your body's like, I'm done. Like, I'm not even going to give you the option because apparently you can't make the choice that you need. So we're just going to shut this down. And yeah, not
Don't
a
do
good
that.
place to be. Don't do that. And as much as we love podcasting and sharing our message. Yeah.
The dreamer is more important than the dream.
Yes. Ooh, the dreamer is more important than the dream. I love that. Yes. So since I introduced you professionally and all of the things, amazing things that you do, and thank you for the work that you do. Oh my goodness. When I found out, I was like, like walking around the gym with a celebrity. I was like, oh my gosh, can you tell I'm fangirling? Because I want to know more. And honestly, this morning, it was so funny because I felt all of my own stuff coming up. Of like, okay, like don't feel like an imposter, because you've got all these achievements and things. And I'm like, wait a second. That's not your role, Tami. Like you are a storyteller.
Right.
And that's very different. You are the researcher, the educator, and I'm happy for you to take those roles because that is not my world.
Exactly.
But I was like, okay. Yeah, I was getting in my head about, do I need to have a list of questions? Like, no, that's not your style, Tami. You just have a conversation. And so I had to do some of my own therapy this morning of getting prepped for you. So.
No, I think our society and just in general, the way, maybe it's a Western thing, that we live based on comparison.
Oh my gosh.
So it's how I am doing is contingent on how other people are doing.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing better than most, then I'm doing well.
Right.
If I'm doing worse than most, then no, things aren't quite well. And I need to do extra to get myself to that point. Eastern cultures seem to have a different approach to how they compare themselves. It's comparison to responsibility and roles and commitment to the larger body, to the community, which I'm sure has its own issues. But I've found that a lot of the release for people, when I used to see people for therapy, I don't do that anymore. I do more research and, of course, the mentoring of grad students, and of course, community work where I actually talk with people one-on-one and do some storytelling sometimes on podcasts. But I've found that the release often comes from people recognizing that your journey is yours.
Yes. Ooh.
Tami's journey is called Tami's journey because it was only meant for Tami to walk. And if I am trying to pretend and trying to push myself into Tami's journey, I want to be like Tami. I want to do what Tami is doing. I wish I could get some of the successes that Tami has. I am no longer walking my journey.
Ooh.
I am walking Tami's journey. And that can never lead to fulfillment or happiness, ever. I have to find out what is my journey. What's Alvin's journey? Figure out what that is for as long as it takes to figure that out.
Oh, for as long as it takes.
For as long as I was going to say that there's no expiry date on it. There is an expiry date.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to expire. But figure out as quickly as you can, but as kindly as you can, kind to yourself and others. Figure out what your journey is and walk that journey as authentically and as voraciously, as aggressively as you can, and as lovingly as you can. As you walk in that journey, walk it in love to yourself, walk it in love with other people. A lot of people do not ever find out what their journey is because they're chasing other people's journeys, or they've been so damaged and so hurt that they can't even begin to think of a journey.
Right.
They're just trying to live. They're just trying to survive. So it's existence. Other people are so discombobulated by all kinds of things in life that it takes them a while to find their journey. So you have people finding their journeys at 40 and 50 and 60 years old, which is not a bad thing. But my approach is, and I found my journey, I think I found my journey around maybe 17, 18, and then it kind of got whittled down and honed into something more specific. Once you found that journey, you usually have about 20, if you're lucky, 20, 30 years to walk it before you lose the energy and it starts to look very different, starts to metamorphose into something different. So once you've found it, walk it quickly.
Yeah.
Make sure you're doing it intentionally and deliberately, because you're on a clock. And the people and the lives and the communities that you're going to have to influence and that you're meant to influence, they're depending on that.
Right.
So there are people who have been waiting for Tami's story.
Yeah.
So now that you have found that story, tell it, walk it, and tell it as often as you can.
Yeah.
Because those people are going to move on eventually, and they're going to be other people that you're going to have to speak to. But do that intentionally.
Yeah. Oh, you just brought, I wish I had a little notepad. Like, oh my gosh, I want to bring it back at this round, this round. There's so many good things in what you said. But I love that you say that your journey is your journey, because that is the message I have been sending on this podcast so many times, because we do want to compare. Like, well, I don't have it as bad as so-and-so. And immediately when you said that, again, I thought back to Corby's episode. So our buddy Corby White was on the podcast. He was one of my very first ones. Like, I knew a little bit about his story. And then when he shared it on podcast, I was like, whoa. And I will never forget editing his episode. I got done with that episode. I was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. It was so powerful. And, absolutely how a man has turned pain into purpose. And even more so now. So congrats on your new job, your new adventures and all of the things. But when I was editing that podcast, all of a sudden my ego got into my head and was like, you are going to be some white girl from a farm putting out that podcast and comparing, your poor childhood wounds to his experience. Oh, and I had to call one of my friends, like, what do I do? Do I put a disclaimer? And I was just like, I don't know how to package this so it doesn't look like I'm this privileged white girl that it was. Well, I brought up a lot of stuff, and I was like, no, like, your story is your story. And I'm not doing anyone a disservice if I stop sharing mine, because there's women like me that became people pleasers and overachievers and completely abandoned themselves and not walking their path. Or I can share my story and help them. Whereas, Corby's helping the people he's supposed to help. And it was a very, again, like, eye-opening experience of the stuff that still comes up for us. And again, even now this morning, like, I was able to quickly catch myself, but it was absolutely there. I was like, there's some breathing techniques going on. What you also say is walking that path. And for me, getting into inner child work, I mean, it was something that obviously I needed. And that's been my path. And so telling my story and how to figure that out, because I knew there was something more, but there were blocks and I couldn't figure out, like, why do you keep self-sabotaging yourself when around food? Like, I have a master's degree in nutrition. Why are you binge eating? Why are you emotionally binge eating when you know better? You paid a lot of money for that knowledge, and here you are eating a pizza in your car. Like, what are you doing? And so you start thinking about that. And I will never forget, I went to a conference, and it was Richard Schwartz talking about internal family systems and talking about parts, and something just, what? And that kind of started me on this path of learning about childhood wounds and childhood trauma, and being able to look at my story. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, everything just clicked and everything. And it totally accelerated my process. I'm like, I can't be a dietitian handing out meal plans anymore. I'm handing out Band-Aids. I'm a Band-Aid deliverer. Like, no, I'm a Band-Aid dealer is what I meant to say. I'm like, I can't do that if this wound of unworthiness is glaring at me. And I'm like, here's a meal plan to make you feel worthy because you'll lose 50 pounds. Morally, soulfully, I just couldn't do that. So I completely, rebranded and started my life over. And so
there you go.
And then brought up all these other wounds. Yeah.
One of the so you talk about the inner child work.
Yeah.
How necessary it was for you. I would go on a limb, a very strong limb, to say that inner child work is necessary for everybody.
Everybody.
I would say as soon as you turn 18, 19, because maybe 22, because 18, 19 people are probably still blasé about the world and very egocentric, kind of internalized, and are less likely to feel or be able to do some of that work. When I saw kids in therapy and saw parents sometimes and just adults outside of the kids in therapy, the way we would start the therapy was not just, hey, come tell me what's going on.
Right.
That's the intake procedure. So we do want to do that to be able to triage.
Yeah.
So Alvin likes to work with these kinds of clients, so we triage them to him. We triage these to somebody else. But once you start the official therapy work, the first step is a trek back down memory lane. So let's talk about your mom. Let's talk about your dad. Let's talk about your grandpa, your grandma. Let's talk about their parents, your aunts, your uncles. Let's talk about the dog that you had. Let's go all the way back sometimes to your birth, sometimes in utero. What was happening while your parents were pregnant with you?
Yeah.
Did they smoke? Did they drink? Is there somebody who kind of emotionally looks like you or mentally looks like you in your family? Oh yeah, people say I'm kind of like strange, like my Uncle Tom. Okay, tell me a little bit more about Uncle Tom. And we walk through that. And that's usually how people start realizing where some of the landmines
Yes.
in their lives are. Like, oh, so you mean that's why I do? Well, it's not why, but it's connected.
It's connected.
And let's look at some other and
Yes.
as you start doing that that backwards walking through your history, you start to see heredity, what's handed down to me
Yes.
in my blood, in my DNA. So
Mhm.
helping me understand things like potential anxiety traits that I might have, or
Yeah.
high levels or likelihood of depression, those kind of things. But also, what are some of the practices, emotional
Yes.
practices, belief systems? My family has a very strong stoic or stoicism kind of belief where you, by golly, no matter what, you just make it happen.
Yep.
Which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that is not balanced with, and sometimes you just will not be able to make it happen, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You let it slide, and then once you've built yourself back up, come back around again to it. Versus, no, you cannot fail. And what that has done to you throughout your childhood and into your early adulthood. And to that work, if we could do that work with kids.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Even while they're growing up. Kids, I look back and I think to myself, I remember as a teenager, I would always bemoan that my parents loved my brother more.
Ooh.
He was 1 year older than me.
Yeah.
And but he was more mechanical. So he liked fixing the bikes and taking the bike apart. I just wanted to ride the bike. He liked playing basketball. I wanted to figure out what people were doing and why they were doing them. So I knew where I was going, and he knew where.
And what was maybe perceived to be valued.
What was valued was what can we get money from?
Yes.
Oh, he can be a mechanic. What are you doing? You're just here talking. Like, you can't get money for talking. Now I can.
Now I can.
Now I do.
It's actually what I do.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting? Like, wow.
Side note. There's a teacher. How old was I? I probably was 5 or 6. I can't remember her first name. Something Duplessis. Miss Duplessis wrote on my end of term report, "Talkative Alvin talks too much." And I always enjoyed the poetry of it. Talkative Alvin talks too much. But I look at it, and I look at it now, and I think to myself, it was meant as an indictment.
Yes.
It was meant to stop me. It was meant to silence me. It was meant to change me. It was meant to derail me. It was meant to detract me. It was meant to change who I am in my very. What does a 6-year-old know about future and journey?
Right.
But I just knew that I had things to say. Like, can I see your pencil? I liked your pencil.
Right.
Like,
I was just curious.
I was just
talk about
asking things. And for that teacher and for many teachers, there is a very specific way that I need you to appear in school. And if you don't fit that box, then I need to do everything I can to squeeze you and compress you and press you and hold you in that box until you figure out that this is where you belong. But then I'm not happy.
Right.
And then I'm not walking my journey.
Right.
And then I'm not being myself. And so eventually I guess I didn't bother with it. I kept moving on and talking and doing what I naturally did. And to think that today, talkative Alvin can't talk enough.
Right.
And is continuing to talk.
Oh my gosh.
So again, to me, that was just part of the doing the inner child work.
Yes. Well, and on the intro of my podcast, I talk about my FIA teacher calling me a hot dog because I was celebrating a goal. And here I am now, like, well, dim your light, Tami. Don't
Right.
shine too
Yep.
bright. Don't get out there and use your voice because you got to keep everyone else comfortable. And I've been dealing with that, working through that for what feels like forever. I'm like, why am I so like, oh, I have the big idea and the energy's there, and then something would shut me down. And it was like, it always came back to that.
How old were you then?
I was in 7th grade when that happened.
So what would you tell
Mm.
7th grade Tami to be?
Yeah, like, celebrate your achievements and with your team, with the people that are around you and supporting you. But it's okay for you to be proud of your achievements too. And that was like, whew, that's one that's still, I feel that. I'll never forget just that initial, like, right there. And I think about Inside Out, that movie, of that core memory.
Right.
Like, that was absolutely a core memory for me that just like frozen in time. And I love when you talk about working your way back, because I didn't even know as a dietitian that I was doing that when I was doing the assessments, because they'd want to get into like what their day looks like now and want to go right to the goals. I'm like, whoa, wait. Like, tell me what it was like eating growing up. Tell me what it was like at mealtime. Tell me what was the relationship around food? You know, how did your parents? And all of a sudden, yeah, you get all this information. And then just over time, it started to develop where I didn't even realize this with inner child work. I wasn't into that yet, but I started to ask about the emotional tone, not just around mealtime, but just, you know, like say you came home from school and you had a bad day. How was that received? Oh, you didn't talk about it. You just, you know, and you get all the information you need in those little bits where it's like, oh, we didn't talk about feelings. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So then here we are trying to lose weight because we use food to cope and numb. It's like, and they just, when they can make those connections, there's nothing like it when you see someone make that connection and like, oh my gosh. Because now you can work with that.
Exactly.
Now because otherwise you just feel hopeless. Like, I don't know why I can never lose weight, or I don't know why I can never. And now when you see that there's this actual block and that you can actually support yourself in the ways that you maybe weren't supported is, whew. Yeah. We had to do in-body scans at 45 where I am now, and because we're starting this big challenge and everyone had to hop up and, you know, find out what their body composition was. And it was so interesting. I knew this was going to happen because I've been there so many times myself, but they get on there and you can even just see themselves as they're watching this number, right? And then I get off and I want to go right to their muscle mass and show them, like, look at this strong foundation that you have. So many of them are like above 100% of, you know, the muscle on their arms and the legs, and almost immediate. Yeah, but did you see how much body fat I have? And I was like, oh. So I went into our Facebook group and I was like, okay, you are not going to become your own bully. That's not what's happening here. And you're going to give you some inner child stuff here. It's maybe a little deep, but you cannot not talk about it because that's 100% where that's coming from.
We're taught to be like that.
Yeah.
You think of a mom or a dad coming home from the hospital with their little baby the first day. And even before they come home, the first thing that happens when they hear the first thing that happens when they're in the room is they wait to hear a cry.
Yeah.
So there's supposed to be a cry, and they're like, why isn't there a cry yet?
Yeah.
So you've already started trying to figure out, why aren't you measuring up to what I expect? So why isn't there a cry yet? And then there's a cry, and there's a brief moment of celebration. Yay, they're crying. That means that they're alive, the lungs are everything. And then you start asking, like, do they have 10 toes? Do they have both feet? Do they have 10 fingers?
Oh my gosh.
So you spend you spend a ton of time anxious and nervous and fretting over how do you compare to this ideal, this social ideal, this societal ideal. And when you notice that the person or yourself, that you've matched it or you've achieved where it should be, I should probably not be waving. When you realize,
I'll attempt to edit that out.
when you realize that you've matched that ideal, or you've approximated it, you've come close to it, then you quit the celebration and you start looking for the next thing to compare.
So true.
So you start asking yourself, is all of this together? Okay, great. I can take my kid home. And you start asking, are they gaining weight? Are they eating? Are they crying? Are they pooping? Are they doing all of these things? And if they're doing these things, then what's the next thing? Like, do you find that they're looking at each other enough? Like, Is the social, are they smiling? Are they griping? Are they teething? And then you just keep moving throughout your life, trying to figure out if this person whom you love, child in this case, but also yourself, how are they matching or not matching this expectation? And so you look at your 12-year-old.
Yeah.
What should I be expecting for a 12-year-old? And is she matching these things?
Yeah.
Again, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But if that's the
Only.
only interaction,
Yeah.
if that's the only context for meaning and for valuing
Right.
a person or a relationship, then it's going to be problematic.
Right.
Because it's not about you anymore. It's about
Mhm.
ideal.
Yeah.
And so now I feel the pressure to live up to an ideal to get your love. Because the only time I get your love and your attention is when you are trying to match me to this ideal. And I get positive attention when I match the ideal. And so what are we doing with our kids? With that kind of knowledge,
man.
what are we intending? How are we intending to change how we talk to our kids, change how we interact with our kids, and change how our kids interact with themselves and with us? So I don't think it's not possible to go through childhood or to go through life without
Right.
accumulating wounds.
Right.
I mean, I tried.
Right.
And
My kids absolutely still have some. They actually tell me.
I busted my head a couple of times.
Right.
I bruised my knee, bruised my elbow,
Yeah.
hurt myself, almost broke bones. That's
Yeah.
just what happens when you're interacting with the environment. That to me is a sign of healthy interaction. The fact that I may have wounded you.
Yeah.
That's healthy interaction.
Yes.
Unhealthy interaction is I may have wounded you and I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't know that I wounded you. And even more unhealthy, I may have wounded you and I don't care.
Whew.
So if you tell me that I've wounded you and I dismiss it, so your daughter or your son says to you, Mom, I feel like you raised your voice. You sounded angry when you told me to go brush my teeth last night, and I didn't like that. It gave me nightmares, or it made me very unhappy that last night. And you're like, well, but I was trying to get you to go to bed. No.
Yeah.
Was your intention to hurt your child?
Right.
Obviously, well, unless you're a sociopath,
Right.
obviously not.
Right.
Your intention was to get them to bed and to get them to do it as quickly as possible so that they won't be tired and
Right.
stressed out
Right.
the following morning. And maybe you can at least get a couple of minutes of sanity before you have to go off to bed yourself. But your intention was not to hurt them. So your response should not be, well, you will. Because what you've now told me is my mental health, my sanity, my well-being does not matter to you as much as me following a rule or me making you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is it sends such a direct message that we are not aware of. But now I want to tune to it, and I can see like, oh, no, I'm not going to let them create that story, because I know where that could have led if I wouldn't have intervened and be like, just let me clarify, like, this is about me. This isn't about you, or just like trying to break that. But you can see how quickly those stories get formed.
People might be listening here and thinking, oh, then you're going to run yourself batty and neurotic trying to keep up with all of these things. And like, no, you have to first, one, recognize that you might need some work. And so do that work. And it doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you've been hurt, and the same thing that we're talking about probably happened to you.
Right.
And you need to kind of figure out what that looks like for yourself. So do that work for yourself. But that as you're doing that work, you're trying to change the trajectory for your child.
Yes.
For those generations and for your grandchildren to come. And you're trying to parent from love.
Yeah.
You need to decide for yourself what love is.
Right. Is it conditional or is it unconditional?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. And so if your love for your child is unconditional, then regardless of how their correction or their feedback might make me feel, that's how it makes me feel.
Yes.
That's my work to do.
I've said that so many times to my daughter.
That's my work to do. I'm going to, you know what? That really stung that you told me that. Not that you told me that. It stung because I know somewhere here that it's true.
Yeah.
And it did something to me. So I'm gonna work on that. That's homework. Now work is
Right.
how it made you feel.
Yeah.
And one, I thank you so much for telling me that.
Yes.
Because you could have chosen to
Mhm.
sit with this and made up a whole different story about it. But thank you very much for feeling comfortable
Mhm.
to tell me that. And I hope you continue to feel comfortable telling me that. Number one.
Yes.
So I validate your strength
Mm.
to advocate for yourself. Number two, I now want to deal with the emotion that you just told me.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. That is not what I meant.
Yeah.
I love you, and I want to make sure that you have enough sleep. So that's what I was trying to do. And maybe I was frustrated, and so my voice said something that I didn't mean to say, and I'm so sorry. Please, if I do that again, please let me know. But I'm going to keep working on it, and you can help me work on it by giving me that feedback. What you've done for that child, beyond, of course, healing that hurt and that scar,
Yeah.
what you've done for them is that you have now modeled for
Uh-huh.
them how to manage emotion.
Yeah.
The number of times some of my friends who have 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds come back and tell me, my little daughter gave me feedback and then walked through the feedback with me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what you've been teaching them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Thank you. Because not that I needed your outside
Right.
validation, but I feel like, okay, as a parent who's on her own healing
Right.
journey and also trying to raise 2 humans, like that's been hard because you notice when they trigger me, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, this is for you, Tami. Like everything you said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that. Okay. Okay. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm doing that.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. I was, whew. Because it is interesting. And actually, when I realized I needed to do some healing around particularly food and body image was when I had my daughter. I mean, I knew that whole time I had body dysmorphia since
Right.
3rd grade, but I could never get to the root of it.
Right.
You know, again, I tried to knowledge my way out of it and
Right.
that didn't help. But when I had her, I was like, oh, no, no, no. I will be damned if I pass these things down to her. If
Right.
she has that relationship with food, if she has that relationship with her body, I'm like, not on my watch.
Mhm.
And so got to work on that. And I think that's where it started that was maybe the first thing that clicked when I heard about parts was I'm like, I have absolutely had a restrictive part and I had kind of that rebellious part that
Right.
was like, F it, let's go eat the pizza, you know?
Right.
But like, or let's eat, 200 calories in a day and see if we can still survive. I was one extreme or the other all the
Right.
time. So I started to do that work, but then I got another layer of it and I'll never forget this moment. And she won't either. And she was 2. I'm pretty sure she was 2 years old. She was dressed up in this Cinderella, actually it was Sleeping Beauty, pink dress. And we were going to this princess party at Monona Terrace. And I was trying to let her, autonomy and be independent and put her coat on. And it wasn't even like you had to be there at 9. It was like, the event is from this time to this time.
Right.
But for some reason, I got it in my head, like, we got to get going. And
Right.
I could feel it coming up.
Right.
And next thing I know, for whatever reason, I was getting frustrated. I turned and I kicked a hole in the wall right in front of her.
Wow. Yeah.
That was like, whoa. And just immediately, like, where did that come from? And I saw the look on her face and just frozen. Like, what did you just do, mommy? And that energy and she's always been able to pick up on my energy. I had my back turned to her. And if I would get frustrated, she'd call me out. And I was like, So it's like a blessing and a curse. She's very sensitive to energy.
She's a thermometer, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And so we have talked once I realized, throughout these last couple of years of really diving into this work of why that was, that I was not taught emotional regulation.
Right. Right.
And that was a skill, like a tool I did not have. And that was very apparent in that moment. I went from 0 to 10 in a blink of an eye and the damage that done in that one moment. And I started to think back to, okay, maybe that's what was modeled to me was that it was slam doors or, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also just this feeling of being rushed and having a teacher every time I was late because my sister was typically late and she was the driver would like embarrass me in front of the whole class. So it was all of these things. And so it's been great to have that conversation with my daughter and like, this is actually where that came from. And this is why I'm doing this work. And so when I see her going from 0 to 10, I was like, okay, like I realize there's some unlearning that
Right.
even we have to do with her because of what was modeled very
Right.
early on for her. So it's a little bit different with my son because I feel like he's a little bit more emotionally regulated in some sense, but his Hulk comes out once in a while too.
I know it's amazing. So I'm listening to the story of that one major incident. I'm sure there were, because she's like a thermostat for you, she can kind of tell
Yeah.
when you're dysregulated and
Yeah.
how dysregulated or the extent of dysregulation. That one big moment is the one that stands out.
Yeah.
But then there are also all of those micro leaks
Yes. Oh.
that you might not even be aware of, like
Right. Right.
the sighing and it's like
Absolutely.
the mild road rage and the eye twitching and everything else that she's picking up on that we think kids are not aware of.
They're so intuitive, so receptive.
The number of clients that are dealing with divorce or near
Yeah.
divorce situations, and they're like, oh yeah, the kids don't know. They're only
They know.
6, they're only 7. Like, do they know when you're happy? Do they know when you're asleep? Then they know.
Yeah.
They may not know the particulars. They may not know all of that, but they know that there's a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Something has changed at home. They know how when dad comes home, there's one reaction, and when dad leaves the house, there's a different reaction. But once that seed is planted, it's so difficult, which is why I try to coax parents into being careful not to plant certain seeds.
Yeah.
Knowingly and unknowingly. So that's why it's important to do the inner child work.
Yeah.
Because it prevents you from planting seeds. It makes you a little bit more aware, so you know what you're planting in your child and what you're not trying not to plant in your child. Once you've planted that seed, some of them you can go back and take out very easily, very quickly, depending on the temperament of that child.
Yeah.
Because now it's no longer just you. It's a whole other creature with a different temperament, different way of thinking, different triggers, and all kinds of stuff. Once you've planted that seed, if the seed is one in a child with a temperament that's connected to that seed, even when you pull out what looks like the plant, the roots still remain.
Ooh, I feel
so
that.
It looks like, oh, I just addressed that with my child. We had this awesome conversation, and I apologized, and she or he recognized, and we're good. And then 2 weeks later, your kid kicks a hole in the wall. And like, oh, I thought that was fixed. No. Just because the plant has been uprooted, for that child with that temperament, that may have left everlasting roots.
Yeah.
And you have to keep going again and again and again to till the soil and go back and pull up some of those roots again.
Yeah.
Help that child figure out why that is the thing that they're going back to, and then give them some additional resources so that even when it becomes, because it's always going to remain an option. Oh, I can do this. I can kick a hole in the wall. Mommy did it. I can do it too. And so now I know I can kick a hole in the wall if I want to, but mommy has given me these other resources, or dad has given me these other resources. I can talk. I can write things down. I can draw. I can do all these different things. But prevention is far better than cure. So if we can do the work as adults, first, do the work with ourselves, we can recognize what some of our seeds are before we plant them in our children.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that hit home, because I was thinking I had to fill out this form about, it was pertaining to my daughter and nervous system regulation. And I was really intrigued by this, and it was talking about her birth, and it was like a 55-hour, whole thing. But I think when it came to our separation, and I remember those conversations as well, like I tried to not have them. And I realized, like, this is because of your own discomfort, Tami. You think you're trying to protect them. You're absolutely protecting yourself in this. I felt like how I grew up was things weren't talked about. I felt all of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the same thing. And that was the end of it. And I had to have those conversations. But I think on paper, I always felt like, oh, like Ari had it so good because she had us together as a family for longer. And then it hit me, like, but you asked to go to therapy when she was 6 months old. And I was like, oh, damn. Because again, knowing how sensitive she was, that seed was planted a little deeper than I realized. And I watched her as I was going through the hardest chapter of my life, which was right around COVID for a lot of people. And so she's not in school either.
Right.
And I remember thinking, like, is she depressed? But she couldn't talk to me because she didn't want me to be sad. She didn't want me to get mad. I was like, oh, like my people pleaser was like, I can't have her follow that path with me. Same thing with food. And so I was like, another layer of this. Gotta go another layer. Yeah. Whereas Arlo, I asked him like, something about his big feelings. I'm like, I love how you allow yourself to feel all your feelings. And he goes, well, what else are you supposed to do with them? He's just like so matter of fact. Like it doesn't even dawn on him that I would hide that.
Right.
Why wouldn't I just come tell you?
Right.
There was one day he hurt himself in their bedroom. And I felt like he was coming out, but I was also probably doing what I needed to do real quick and knowing that he was coming around the corner. But I didn't go run to him and check on him. And he called me out on it. But in a very matter of fact way of like, you didn't come check on me. And I was like, you know what? I didn't. Like, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And I really appreciate that you said that. But then later that night, he kind of had more of an unemotional thing going on. I'm like, I'm here for you now, buddy. Now he's like, get away. Oh, now we've got inner child mom coming at me. But it was so funny. But he got it. He understood. He's like, that was a physical pain that you wanted to help me with. But now that I'm going through this emotional thing, I'm here for you too.
Right.
And he understood that. I was like, okay. Yeah.
That was a good seed planted.
I'm trying.
I think you're doing very well.
Thank you.
I mean, I've never met them, but just going off of how I hear you talk about them and the interactions that I see. Again, people post specific things on online, but just the interactions and the health that I see. You're either putting on a very, very good front. Or doing,
I don't have that kind of energy or effort to fake that. I mean, I'll come out here and share the flubs that I made and when I didn't parent well, because I'm learning too. And I let them know that. And again, same what you said about modeling. If I don't show them how to move through an emotion, how do I expect them to do that? If you see me having a sad day or I had a stressful day, I can tell you about it so you know it's not about you, that's why I'm like huffing and puffing or whatever it is. But if they can see me move through that and how I support myself, like, I need to get outside and get some fresh air. I'm feeling stressed today, or I'm going to cry and it's okay. They see me move through that, and then it gives them an opportunity to like support me in that way, like giving me a hug or whatever it is. And that's been very freeing to not feel like you have to bottle that up. So
it also sets up it's another really good seed planted, because it sets up for them a very realistic expectation of what being an adult is, what being a person is, because kids have this magical thinking. They assume that their dad is the most powerful guy in the world. He can do everything. He knows everything. Same thing with mom. Mom knows everything, which makes sense, because until they go to school, you do know everything. They come to you for all their questions, and wow, you can answer all of these questions, whether the answers are right or not. You seem to have an answer for everything. So you are the fount of wisdom. You're perfect until they go out of the world of the home and realize that, oh, there are people who might be stronger than my dad or stronger than my mom or taller than my mom. So they see the differences. One of the challenges is that even in our parenting roles as mothers and fathers, even in our parenting roles, there is still that insidious self-comparison. And this really ridiculous level of super mom, super dad. And by trying to be super mom or super dad, we're telling our children that they need to be super kids. So you apologizing to your daughter and your son says to them, mom does not know everything. And that's okay. As a mom, you have to remind yourself, it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to not be right. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, even when the kid is the one who's right. And that sets up for the child a realistic expectation of the world, of adults, of themselves. A child who understands that my teacher can be wrong too, because my mom is wrong sometimes. Oh, my mom is great at podcasting, but she's horrible at video games.
That is actually true. 100% true. I am the worst.
And that is okay. So you're learning all of these dynamics of self and interaction, that there are things that I'm great at.
Yeah.
And there are things that I'm okay at, and there are things that I'm horrible at. And just because I'm horrible at it doesn't mean I can't try it.
Yeah.
And just because I'm great at it doesn't mean that it has to define me. So yes, I'm great at basketball. Yes, I'm great at ballet. But that is not the only thing that's me.
Yeah.
I am more than that. I can find purpose in more than one thing. I can find my identity is an amalgamation of experiences and thoughts and beliefs and philosophies and strengths and weaknesses and inferiority, just all of that pulled together. Our children need to see that modeled. So you can't always be the big, strong, lumbering dad. You have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You can't be the perfect mom. You have to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, and if they see you doing it all the time. And actually, I had a woman that I've been working with. Her name is Julie. She was on a couple episodes ago. And she shared such a beautiful story about her mom, as her mom was in her, final minutes, really. And that she made the choice that it was time. And she's like, that was the first time I ever saw my mom do something for her, like made a decision only for her, was to say, it's time to let me go.
Wow.
On literally her deathbed. And she's like, she doesn't know the gift that she gave me to see that. And, now she's a woman in her 50s who absolutely modeled right after her mom and self-sacrificed so many times and did everything for not even just her family, but as a CEO and as a community member, and would completely exhaust herself to the point of physical, mental exhaustion. But nobody knew.
Right.
Because that all happened,
You're not
at
supposed to know.
closed doors, but on this front, like, had to put on this perfect persona because that's how people knew her. And God forbid you do something wrong, and it was so clear where that went back to her childhood. And just to see her make those shifts now, and I get so many goosebumps thinking about the healing that she has done, because she finally allowed herself to go there, even though she came from the Leave It to Beaver family. So like you said, your journey is your journey. Because people could look at her story on paper like, what are you talking about? You're great. You got great kids, a great family. And but there was something that she knew, like, deep inside her, that needed some healing.
And it sounds like that unknowingly she would have passed that on to her children as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what a gift to recognize that for yourself and do the work for yourself. But what an intergenerational gift to be able to reach back to her children and say, hey, I discovered this thing about myself based on how I interacted with your grandma. And I want us to have some conversations. Let's meet for coffee once a week to talk about this, to unearth this and process it, and then eventually figure out how we can unravel this seemingly ununravelable ball of twine that is now connected to my grandchildren.
Yeah, truly.
And to my great-grandchildren down the road. How can we make sure that the next generation, the great-grands, do not have this passed down to them?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I felt that when my grandmother recently passed over the summer, and with her going into the hospital, like, and not wanting to burden my mom to take her to the hospital, when intuitively she knew she needed to go, but then didn't say something right away because my mom had plans, and then came back and then asked. But by now, that infection got even deeper, and it just like I can see, like, that is your childhood wound at the age of 90.
Yep.
And it could have just cost you days. It could cost you more years. That one delay that I don't want to burden. And like, oh, no wonder here I am, like, always feeling like a burden to people. So I'm like, that absolutely got passed on to me. So I will not put that on my children. And there's moments where I'm like, ooh, and I will correct it, and we'll have a conversation. And I'm told her, I'm like, you are not responsible for my feelings. Like, you have a safe space to feel yours, and how it impacts me is up for me. Like, that's my work. And now she's much better at being able to share stuff. Sometimes it's still a little sharp. We're fine-tuning that tool that she has, but she definitely has found her voice and being able to share, because before she wouldn't. So
kittens don't know how sharp their claws are. They're just playing. They're just interacting, and they will swipe and you'll get a good scratch. An older cat understands I have sharp claws and I know what they're for. So I'm going to play with you and I'm going to pull my claws out, but I won't scratch you.
Yeah. Ooh. That's a great analogy. It's a
So
great
yeah,
analogy.
she doesn't know how sharp her claws are yet.
No.
She doesn't even know that she knows that there's something there.
Yeah.
And she can pull it out every so often.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know how much hurt it can cause yet.
Well, and we started to have some of those conversations because she can see how it shuts her brother down. And I said, like, all right, your message, it's not that you're wrong in what you're trying to say, it's how you deliver it.
Yeah.
It's your claws are scratching when really he would have received that if it would have been packaged a little differently. But when it comes out sharp, he immediately. So they're well versed in inner child.
Do they have a choice?
No, they don't.
Feel like the whole environment breathes out and pulsates in the child.
It does. I got pictures of my inner child right over there on the fridge. She's over there when I make her shake. So I'm like, hey, Tam, good morning. Oh no, but it gives us language, you know, and it's different for both of them. Like for Arlo, for a while there, we referred to it as Hulk when he came out. I'm like, Hulk's gonna get some consequences that when he leaves, you have to deal with, and so you might want to pause.
Yeah,
and it would get him to pause, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to clean up Hulk's mess."
Yeah.
So
that is awesome language.
I don't know. It worked for
adaptive
him.
language.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have Hulk.
No.
She has something else.
Right.
And for him, that's excellent. Look at you.
Look at.
Look at you doing the thing.
Just doing the thing over here. Making it look real messy, but still doing it. We've done some learning along the way, but
yeah, I know some good cupcakes come out of some awesome messes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Make your messes. You get to eat the cupcakes afterwards.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back a little bit just to address what you talked about with parents and that your kids know. And this is where I'm trying to help just create some more awareness so we can catch ourselves, because it starts with us, right? The wounds weren't your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
But if you don't even know that you have them, and I think that's what I'm hoping this podcast is doing, like, oh, that's why I do that, or oh, that's when I react this way, and just catching those moments of like when we get sharp with people. And I received a text from someone. It had nothing to do with them, but it triggered me, but I knew exactly why it triggered me, but it had nothing to do with this person.
Right.
Whereas I could have lashed out at this person. Like, it's not about you. So some of those like subtle things that we might do or say as parents that might cue them into like, oh, I should maybe look at some of this stuff, because the message that could maybe be sending their kids.
So I think first, accept that everybody has wounds. Every single person.
Yeah.
From Obama to Pope John Paul to Donald Trump to me to Tami to you, everybody nobody comes to this life and leaves without wounds. And you're going to keep accumulating wounds throughout. As long as you interact with people, there'll be wounds. And if you're not living in a traumatic environment, most of those wounds are going to be unintentional.
Right. Yes.
The people who are closest to you are going to be the people who can hurt you the deepest.
Yeah.
Because they know you the most. And not that they're using it to hurt you, but because it's them, it hurts more.
Yeah.
So if my mom says to me, "Oh, that's a dumb idea," that's going to hurt.
Right.
If another person says to me, "That's a dumb idea," and who are you? Like, you don't have currency in my life, so I don't care what you think. I mean, I'm going to go back and like, why did they think that was a dumb idea? But it won't hurt in the same way. So understand that everybody has wounds, and that those wounds can vary in depth based on our connection to the people who have initiated, I don't say caused, initiated those wounds or been in touch with those wounds. The wounds were birthed or were caused because of interaction. And so they're going to show up again when there's interaction.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful to be looking for them. Again, you're not going looking for offense.
Right.
You're looking for your reaction.
Yeah.
So if somebody says something to you and it wells up something in you, you start feeling hot inside or angry, ask yourself, like, be intuitive enough. if your rate starts to go off when somebody says something or does something, that's your body telling you something.
Yeah.
If your palms start to see that,
Uh-huh.
that's your body telling you something.
Those are my goosebump confirmations.
Your goosebump.
That resonates. That's the technical term for them. Just
Trademark that. Goosebump confirmations. So you've already understood what your body is telling you.
Yeah.
Your body is telling you, ooh.
Yeah.
That's truth.
Yes.
That's your truth.
Mm-hmm.
So you understand that.
Yeah.
If my palms start to get sweaty and my face starts to get tight, I know that something around me is making me anxious, scared, or nervous. Right. And if there's not a tiger or a pit bull or somebody with a weapon nearby, I'm like, so why am I so anxious? Like, oh, this person just spoke in a very demeaning way. This person spoke in a way that's belittling. I don't like that. Let me follow this thread back. So this person is the current interaction, but that's not where I learned it.
Right.
I learned it from before, and my brain is throwing me back to that previous experience. Oh, John just said this and it pissed you off.
Right.
But where did you learn to be pissed off about that?
Right.
Follow the thread.
Well,
I remember my dad or my mom or my aunt or my grandma used to do this. But then I also remember this other person used to do this. I had a teacher who used to do this. Mm-hmm. And so you've now started the work. Yeah. So you're identifying the current interaction and what your body is telling you about the current interaction. And then you have to be brave enough because it might reveal things that you may not want to unearth.
Right.
But you need to unearth if you want to be healed from it.
Yeah.
So you follow the thread back to the first time you felt that, or the next time you felt it, because you may not remember right off the bat the first time. Sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh my God, I do remember this thing when I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. I did not, like, for the life of me at this age, where did that come from? Yeah. It was buried. Yeah. Because it was not processed appropriately. So you buried it, it hurt, and you kept burying it under layer and layer and layer. And every time this emotion comes up, you realize that it doesn't take much for it to spill over. Why? Because there's so much already there that it just takes a little bit to push it over. So you have to go back in and say, okay, great. Where did this first start off? And let me open this wound. So it's painful. Let me open this wound, squeeze out. It's going to get a little bit graphic. Let me open this wound, squeeze out the pus and the dead blood and get some of that gauze in there. And that's going to be painful, but that's necessary for healing because I have to get the bacteria out. I have to get all of the infection out. And once I've done that, then I need to now figure out, once I've gotten all of that out, done all of that hard work, it might take some months or some years. Once I've taken that out, then I allow it to naturally close. And when it closes, when that wound closes, it doesn't disappear.
Right. Right.
God has designed us so that we have reminders of our experiences. It leaves a scar. The scar is not an invalidation. The scar is not a detraction from the beauty that is your soul and who you are. The scar is a reminder of a time when you were hurt and a reminder of how beautiful you still are beyond the hurt. So it's almost like the rainbow in your flesh, the rainbow in your mental health. So you're moving beyond that because now some people have scars and beneath the scars, there's pus and everything else because they've never healed. Yeah. And that's going to eventually pop open again. But if you've done the work and the flesh comes back together and heals properly, then all you have left is a scar and something that you've learned from.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it, is odd of analogy it's absolutely true. When you talked about that skin coming together, like, to me, like, that's now how you're reparenting. How can I show up for myself? And that's what I was telling, all the members at the gym, like, what kind of encouragement did you need as a kid when you feel like, I just got this test score back? Well, you just got your body fat percentage back and you're not feeling great about that. What would you say to little you? Or what would you say to your kids in this moment? Like, hey, we want to work on this. you need to do that for yourself. This is a goal that we want to work on now. This is how we're going to show up for ourselves, going to the gym, maybe it's meal prepping, maybe it's, continuing to catch these things and honor ourselves through it and to allow ourselves to feel our feelings. But that's what can bring that back. So you do have true healing. And those scars are beautiful.
Yep.
Like I look back at my story, I'm like, I wouldn't change anything about it. Anything about it. And when you talk about like going all the way back, it was so clear to me, like previous relationships, it all led me back to a father wound. Even though I have a beautiful relationship with my father now, there was that little girl that still felt like, hey, hold up. There's still a little bit of pus back there. We got to go heal. And once I had that awareness, it felt like everything shifted.
I'm going to share something. I'm not sure if I share. Maybe I've shared it on my podcast. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be an exclusive.
Ooh.
But I used to have nightmares where I was fighting my dad. And I was like, why am I fighting my dad in my nightmares? And I'd wake up like chest pounding and like just fully activated. And I sat back and processed it and thought about it and then spoke with a friend about it. And I was like, oh, where was I fighting with my dad to begin with? And I went all the way back to my childhood. And like, yeah, there were a ton of experiences where my dad and I were in serious verbal arguments, where I was scared of my dad, where the relationship was not a very positive one.
Yeah.
And we moved into my adulthood as if everything was great.
Yeah.
We just covered it. Like all of this history, we just pretended like it never existed. We just covered it and just moved on. And this infection kept brewing. And the only time my brain, my mind had to process it, because I was actively throughout the day. I mean, I didn't know I was doing this because it wasn't popping up in my mind. But I was so intent on acting out the professor and acting out the good son and acting out all of these different roles that I play, that all of us play every day, that there was no space to sit back and dig up and unearth these memories. So my mind was pulling it up when I was asleep.
Yeah.
And the way our brain works as far as helping us process information that can't seem to be processed is by making dreams out of them.
Yeah.
So I was doing this work in my dreams. And I said to myself, the only way I'm going to have a good night's sleep and rest and take all the stress away is to have a conversation with my dad.
Wow.
And I dreaded that conversation. Because I thought, like, what do I tell him? Like, do I bring up all the stuff? And I was like, you know what, Alvin? You're a clinical psychologist.
Right? I mean, wait. But did that little boy come back and, like, bring all those feelings back up of, like, I'm scared, I don't know what to say, I don't want to say the wrong thing?
I don't want to say the wrong thing. Because, I mean, I could also hurt him.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, I could hurt him very easily with my words.
Yeah.
I know exactly what to say. I cut him down.
Yeah.
But is that what I want?
Right.
No, that's not what I want. I want a healed relationship. I want a positive relationship, not just for him, but for my mom and for the grandkids that are in their vicinity. So I had a conversation, and I said I want my mom involved in the conversation because she was sometimes involved in the interactions as well. And what I did was to validate his fatherhood.
Yes. Yeah.
That there are lots of kids who grew up without a father in the house, and that you chose to come home every night is a wonderful thing. And I understand that having a father in the house is not enough. The father has to be actively involved, and you were not always actively involved. But I understand why you were not actively involved. So you're not getting off.
Right. And
I want you to know that I know that you were not actively involved. I know that you were not the best dad that you could have been, but I understand why. And I went back to his childhood of never knowing his dad. Still doesn't know who his dad is. Of never growing up with a man in the house. Of having to be the parent when his mom left. Having to be the parent for his 4 siblings and raise them from 12, 13 years old. he was 13 years old and had to
Wow.
leave school to help raise them on his own. So I was like, I understand that you had no point of reference. I'm not saying that it's a good reason, but I also see what you're doing with your grandkids. And I tell him sometimes I'm jealous of them because I see what you're doing with them and I appreciate it
Yeah.
because you're working hard. You're not perfect, but you understand that there's work to be done and you're doing some of that work. So I appreciate that. So all of what happened, I understand why it happened. When I was growing up, I didn't understand it. I'm not excusing it, but I want you to know that I know it happened. And I want us to both know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't have to go into all the details.
Right.
And I told him, if I had to do it all over again, I would still choose you.
Oh,
And I never slept better that night. No nightmares, no fights, like slept so well. And from then on, those horrible dreams of fighting with him disappeared.
ooh, wow. That is powerful.
Yep. The work is liberating.
It is.
The work has to be done. You cannot, you can. You should not run from the work.
Right.
Because the work is healthy. It's necessary. It's healthy for you and even more so for your next generation.
Mm-hmm.
If you run from the work that you have to do today, you have now bequeathed that work to your children. What a horrible inheritance to leave to your children. To tell them the work that I should have at least started, I don't want to do it because it's hard, because it's painful. So I am going to give it to you to do. And maybe you can do it.
Oh, man.
You and my grandchildren will take care of this. What a horrible thing to leave to a child.
Yeah, when you say it that way, that hits hard. But in a way where, again, to wake you up, to crack you open, to realize how important this is. And this isn't just like, yeah, you should, try to lose some weight. Like, no. This is real.
Yeah.
And this runs deep. And when you can just start to embrace your story, like, okay, I want to get curious about that. Like you said, it leads to a beautiful moment. Can lead to a beautiful, liberating moment. Not just for you, but the gift you gave your dad.
Yep.
Wow.
Like our interactions are very, like he will call, Alvin, I want to talk. My dad and I didn't talk when I was growing up.
Wow.
But my dad, when my dad got home, we were all quiet.
Yeah.
And once he left the house, life was breathed into the room again.
Wow.
So for my dad to now be saying, hey, Alvin, so I was checking with the bank and like,
what?
And we have this long conversation. And if I don't put a stamp on it, he doesn't believe it. Like, no, call Alvin first before this goes through. Let's ask Alvin. No. I need to talk to Alvin first. Coming from where we came from to now, very, very different.
It's so clear, like how our own fears and that wound that you still had was blocking you from this gift. You were meant to find the gift in that painful package.
Yep.
In full circle moment, going back to your teacher. And that it's so interesting that these things, it's almost like they were planted and that ends up being the gift all along.
Yep.
And so when you can think that, but you're right, like sometimes we get so frozen, we want to blame Tom because he said whatever.
Exactly.
Like, no. There is a gift and a lesson in literally everything.
Yep.
I have yet to find an experience that I've had that didn't teach me something.
None. As you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, was this meant to be my father's own deliverance as well? Because now he gets to feel what it's like to be a father. So from a man who never interacted with his father to now being able to sit back and say, that's my son. To now be able to say, these are my grandchildren. Let me call my son. And that only happened because I chose to do the work. To now be able to look back and say, oh, no, that's my dad. And I would choose him all over again. That would not have happened if I had not chosen to do the hard work.
Well, and to choose to do the work so that way you could have a conversation that would be healing, that would be productive. Because sometimes like, oh, I'm going to go address it, but I'm coming in with my ego
Exactly.
and then they're shut down and
Exactly.
you make everything
Everything is worse.
worse. But when you do the work, you can, like you said, I can understand it and I can still, this was still my experience. And that's the conversation I also had with my dad was like, I want to understand what happened kind of around 5 for me. And knowing what he was going through at that time, like I understand it. And I think there was a little girl who felt like her dad was gone.
Yep.
Even though he was physically there.
Right.
And he said this, like, I wish I would have had a conversation with you. I'm like, I know, but you didn't have those tools then.
Exactly.
And it was such a beautiful, loving moment that we had and like just strengthen a relationship even more. But I didn't have to leave that part in the dark. I'm like, I don't want to bring it up to him because he was open to it too when you approach it the right way. But I'm like, Dad, you effed me up. And probably not the right approach. Oh, I think that's my alarm set for 11:25 when I nap before I train at noon. I think that's the bird cueing. Was that her cue?
I was like, wow, she has birds all the way up here. That is awesome.
Really trying to create a Zen moment here to help regulate. I just have to have.
I love birds. I love birds.
Well, that's not going to turn off unless I go over there. But it does feel like maybe a nice place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Hold on, I am going to turn that off because I want to give you silence your alarm.
Do you think it was catching it? I was barely hearing it. Until you mentioned, like, oh, I do hear birds.
Oh, all right. Well, talk about podcasting life behind the scenes. Here we are. I just feel like I could have a million more podcast conversations with you.
Easily.
I absolutely want to have you back because I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface. But I do want to kind of wrap this up with people knowing about your podcast and maybe a little bit about the mission behind it, the message behind it, because it isn't just for Black fathers. I'm listening to it today and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's so good. It's so good.
So it's called the Black Fathers Pulse podcast. It was originally called the Black Fatherhood podcast, and it's where all the original material is from. Now we kind of moved for a very different reason, for lots of interesting reasons, to the Black Fathers Pulse. So please go find that everywhere you find your podcast. It's also on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram as well. Same name, the Black Fathers Pulse podcast. As a professor, I engage in research, and the research goes into these scientific articles, and these articles eventually get published in scientific journals. And usually that's the end of them. Unless some other scientist discovers it and be like, oh, this really supports what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. The people that you're researching and trying to learn about often do not get that research. So I study children and families. So very often parents are not going to find this research because that's not where they look for work.
Ain't got time for that.
And it's expensive. Like it's behind a firewall. You pay a couple $100 for one article. Yeah. So I thought, how could I take this work and translate it into language that anybody can engage, the layperson on the street, as well as the community organizations. And so that's where the Black Fathers Pulse podcast came from, trying to translate that work into language and into content that individuals could use. When I was doing therapy, I would often try to find free community resources that I could tell my clients, listen to this podcast or listen to this episode or read this thing, because it's free and it's readily available, easily accessible. And so I thought, how could I make this content so that anybody could use it? So fathers could say, hey, dudes, let's just hang out after gym and listen to this podcast, or listen to this podcast and let's discuss the content that it brought up for you, like create the conversations out of the content. So that's why I created the podcast. People ask me, like, why Black fathers? I'm like, why not Black fathers? I'm a little bit cheeky like that sometimes.
I like that.
So I chose Black fathers, one, because it's my story, and two, because it's my father, and three, because that's what I study. I study fatherhood, but more often Black fathers specifically. Yeah. Not because Black fathers are... That's not true. Because Black fathers are one of the most underrated demographics. As far as the expectations for Black fathers, the usual narrative is that Black fathers are not involved, that Black fathers are uninterested, that they've given up their roles, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's a ton of research, a Moshe 2013 article from the I think it might be CDC, that tells us that Black fathers are among the most involved demographic across a full range of nurturing activities. So I wanted to have that information in there. I wanted to share that information and tell the story of Black fathers so people could know that Black fathers are out there doing this work, and other Black fathers could realize I'm not the only one doing this work, that there's this whole community of brothers who are out there doing this hard work. And let me continue. The challenge has been to get people to understand that even though the stories are specifically about Black fathers, the common humanity exists and threads throughout. I have a 70-something-year-old woman, white woman, from the Northwoods of Wisconsin, who writes me sometimes long emails, says, here is what I got from this episode. And she listens to all these episodes while she's doing her workouts with her husband. It's like, wow, I saw my dad in this. Her dad is not a Black man.
Right.
It's a white man from the 40s, 50s. And it's like, I saw my dad in this. I saw my family in this. And we get those kinds of letters. We get letters from the Caribbean. I don't have any kids, but I teach. And I wish we could get this to all of the fathers whose kids I'm teaching now.
Yes.
How do I translate this for those fathers? And so we have those kinds of discussions. So the idea is that there's a common humanity that binds all of us. Yes, the stories are about Black fathers, but the reality is a human reality. And so I hope that everybody finds purpose, but also finds content that is meaningful to them from this podcast, from the Black Fathers podcast. I think you said at the beginning, just kind of struggling with how to tell Corby's story. And I think to myself, if anybody sits back and thinks, well, it's a white girl telling a story, so I'm not going to listen to her podcast. There's nothing she could tell me, because that's not my reality.
Right.
And then I think to myself, but your reality is just your reality. And it has made you who you are. And my reality, being from the Caribbean, a Black man, I could tell you lots of other stories about the origin story of myself. It's very different. And yet here I am from a very small island in the Caribbean, 180,000 people. That's the population.
Wow.
We could fit in Madison so many times. If the Madison Police Department went to war with my country, they'd probably win. That's how small, how physically small we are, and population small we are. But the experiences that led me here, and the experiences that led you here, I would be a fool to not want to tap into those experiences.
Right.
You would be a fool to not want to tap into my experiences.
Absolutely.
Because and as we've found in this discussion, that there are so many similarities. Why?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're both human.
Yes. Ooh, so good. Yes. And I think that's even part of the intro of my podcast is I hope you hear yourself somewhere in the story.
Yeah.
And it's not about identifying based on looks or any of that. It's, can I hear myself somewhere in the story? And when that part of you speaks up, listen.
Yep.
When, like you said, when your body speaks, listen. It is that your inner child trying to tell you something. Like, I have a story to tell you. Oh, thank you so much for the work that you do. And yes, I will include all of the links to go follow him, go listen to his podcast. Again, it's such an incredible, incredible resource. And obviously, like his voice, like you can just listen to it all day. But your information and the way, like, again, the way you can translate, because throw me a research paper, like I'm not reading it, but the way that you translate the information and make it so relatable and through storytelling or through experiences is so beautiful. And so it's, again, a amazing free resource that you're putting out there for people, even though you do need to get paid for that. some point.
So sponsors,
Sponsors,
hey,
we're here.
we're here. Sponsors, come on.
We want to
Come
keep
on.
this podcast train
Let's make
going.
it happen.
Because this is good work that we're
Yeah.
doing. And
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
we wouldn't be doing it if we weren't very passionate about it. And having done the work to realize how important it is.
There are people who would never have heard of inner child work
Right.
who are now hearing it and be like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
And listening and, oh my God, she's brave for doing that. And eventually we get to the point of, oh my God, I could do this. So
I hope so.
keep doing it.
Awesome. All right. There we go. We're going to keep doing it over here. So thank you again. And again, I truly would love to have you back. So we'll get that on the calendar easier than last time.
We'll make it easier this time.
You don't want to know the behind the scenes scheduling.
No, hey.
We're
Don't
here.
ask questions.
All in
Don't ask
divine
questions.
timing. All in divine timing.
Don't ask questions. Don't peek behind the curtain.
Don't.
We're good. We're good.
good.
We're here.
Everything's great over here on this end. But truly, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, for stepping into your gifts and come back around and keep talking.
Yeah.
Tell that teacher this is exactly what I was always meant to do. And thanks for putting that fire in me. So awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. We'll wrap this up until next week. And again, we will look forward to having Dr. Alvin back. So thank you. Oh my gosh.